this series, Realities of Real-World Evidence. We are very pleased today in this third episode to have with us Dr. Komal Gaur, who's Medical Lead Evidence Generation at Pfizer India Limited. Dr. Komal is a seasoned medical affairs professional, experience across medical affairs, clinical research, pharmacovigilance, and real-world evidence, both in the Indian and the global international business markets across various therapeutic areas. Dr. Komal is currently in medical leadership team of Pfizer India, leading evidence generation function in the country, including strategy, design, partnerships, and capability building. Welcome, Dr. Komal. It's a pleasure to have you with us. I know we've been talking about RWE, especially in the context of this market for some time. So it will be nice to get your views on certain areas.
Thank you, Dr. Chitra, for having me here. Hello, everyone.
So my first question is, since you're part of a large global organization and responsible at the country level, it will be interesting to know how global organizations plan and utilize RWE. Get your perspective on it.
Sure. Thank you for that question, Dr. Chitra. Before I begin, just a small disclaimer. I am a full-time employee of Pfizer India Limited. However, my participation in this podcast series and my responses are completely personal, and they do not necessarily reflect Pfizer's view and opinion. Coming back to your question, Dr. Chitra, it is indeed a very pertinent one. Real-world evidence initially, in the previous years, yesteryears, was looked at only from the perspective of post-launch, post-approval regulatory requirements. However, now the horizon has really expanded a lot, and pharmaceutical industries are utilizing real-world evidence throughout the product life cycle. Using real-world evidence in decision-making on the medicinal products is of strategic and regulatory importance worldwide. Real-world evidence gives us insights on multiple areas such as disease epidemiology, treatment effectiveness, long-term safety, which is very important, especially when it comes to chronic and non-communicable diseases. And very importantly, when we talk about our country perspective, it is important to generate evidence around the economic health impact. So real-world evidence indeed has gained a lot of momentum worldwide, and it is gaining a lot of importance, especially from the regulatory approvals perspective. It is very important to look at the characterization of the data sources, because that will essentially bring value in terms of the evidence which the organizations can utilize. Before designing a research question, it is important to understand the local real-world evidence needs, and accordingly the research question has to be framed. It is also important to be aware of the local level limitations in terms of the resources, time, the price, the cost aspect, as well as the exposure of the drug in question, because all this will essentially define your evidence generation journey. What is also important to understand is the availability as well as willingness of the investigators and patients to be able to participate in the study. We also need to look at the data sources, and that will also help us to come to a decision whether we wish to do a single center study or do we require data from multiple centers. We may also want to look at a multi-country kind of an evidence generation study. So keeping all these factors in mind, the organizations would then prepare a comprehensive real-world evidence plan, and not only the plan to conduct a study, but also to disseminate the results, that is the publication plan, so that it is available in public domain for utilization, for the right communication to essentially to the investigators, because ultimately physicians and the patients are the ones who are going to get benefited from these real world evidences. Prioritization is the most important factor here. Whether the drug is in the pre-launch stage, whether it is in the post-launch stage, or whether it is approaching exclusivity, all of that will also define and help the organizations to prioritize which study to conduct when. Dr. Chitra, you're on mute.
Thanks, Dr. Komal. That makes a lot of sense. My next question to you is, What are the key? I know there are many, but maybe you could mention the top few that you have. What are the key challenges that the industry faces while conducting RWE studies, and what could be some potential solutions for those?
Thanks for the question, Dr. Chitra. And as you correctly mentioned, there are indeed many challenges. I would like to, restrict myself and, highlight a few important ones. We can actually bucket these challenges into, three aspects. And if you look at the first aspect, essentially from the physicians and patient side, still in our country there is a lot of limitation in the understanding and awareness about what real world evidence is, what is the utility, how real world evidence can actually help physicians in clinical decision making, how it can update or in fact change if needed, change the treatment protocols. So this awareness is really limited among the physicians. And similarly, when it comes to patients, patients also do not understand the difference between the conventional clinical trials and real world evidence. And what real world evidence means to a patient, that is something which is really a limitation if you look at the physicians and patients' perspective. Coming to the other very critical aspect is the data, and that is our institutions, the healthcare institutions, the type of data that they capture is not fit for purpose. When I say fit for purpose data, while the data is being captured across various data sources in different capacities, in different fashions, however, the utilizability of that data is a question. The data may be either heterogeneous or there may be, incomplete data. And of course, lack of longitudinal data which exists in our country. So application of this data becomes a problem. The other aspect from the institutions, healthcare institutions perspective, is the lack of availability of the right set of infrastructure. While data is getting captured in the hospitals, however, it is essentially only for the billing purpose, or it may be for capturing only the laboratory based data. However, we are yet to go beyond that, and we are yet to have an end to end EMR solution in place. Some of the institutions have taken some steps to it, but we have a long way to go. If you look at the third bucket, it's more from the regulatory and the policy perspective. India is still at a very nascent stage when it comes to policies governing the real world evidence data and the use of that data. A very important concern which the physicians share with us, with the institutions share with us, is the point around the data privacy. So still the data privacy regulations are not that evolved. We don't have the right policies in place which can actually help physicians understand what is the importance of real world evidence, and that becomes a limiting factor for industries to collaborate with physicians as well as institutions. A couple of solutions I can highlight while I've mentioned the challenges. We all need to rise up to the occasion. All the stakeholders which are involved in the real world evidence ecosystem have to, take it on their own. You talk about physicians, patients, for that matter, even the patient advocacy groups, payers, regulators, NGOs, all of them actually need to come together, put the pieces, in a puzzle, and only then the real world evidence will gain momentum. The second solution which I can possibly think of is, and it could be a relatively quick win, an early success could be creating more and more awareness about real world evidence among physicians as well as patients, what it means to them, how is it going to impact the patients in the everyday treatment. That is something, if we can drive as an industry, it would be indeed helpful, and it would be a welcome step taken towards in this direction. The third aspect which I feel is very critical is collaboration at all fronts, be it public private partnership, be it industry academia collaboration. I think when this is something which not only an industry person or not only physicians or not only patients or regulators would be able to do on their own. As I said, collaboration is the key, and all the stakeholders need to come together, rise to the occasion, and only then we will be able to actually leapfrog as a country and reach to the level where Western world is right now.
Yeah, very appropriately said. I guess, because RWE benefits all stakeholders also should come together and contribute to making something happen. Thank you very much,
Yes.
Dr. Komal. It was a pleasure to have you with us. Thanks.